getting a lot of support for our General Hospital Heritage podcast, talking about the history of the show. And by popular demand, we're going to do the big one today. Give some background as to how Anthony Geary and Genie Francis ended up as Luke and Laura on what was pretty well the most popular soap opera of its era and probably of all time. Now, Luke and Laura are fictional characters and a signature super couple from GH. Luke is portrayed by the very talented Anthony Geary, and Laura is portrayed by Genie Francis. The other super couples came before them. Luke and Laura are the best known outside the soap opera medium, and are credited with defining the term super couple and leading other soap operas to try to duplicate their success. Now, the big plot point in the relationship was a rape by a drunken Luke who thought he had to basically give up his life to meet the needs of the mafia control on him. In a weird turn of events, Laura falls in love with him. Originally, critics of the soap opera genre panned the choice of having a rape victim fall in love with a rapist, an example of forced seduction. The unlikely pair became popular in spite of Luke's past misdeed, when the story shifted to focus on love and redemption. The couple wed at the end of the hour-long show, which aired on November 16, 1781. The event was watched by 30 million viewers and remains the highest-rated hour in American soap opera history. Viewers watched as the show followed their marriage through 2 decades and gave them 2 children. Today, their union still has a presence in the fictional town of Port Charles. In 1996, TV Guide included the wedding of Luke and Laura as part of its 100 most memorable moments in TV history, ranking at number 35. On internet message boards, the couple is also often referred to as LNL or LNL for Luke and Laura. Now, in 1978, GH was close to cancellation owing to low viewership. At the time, they were ranked lowest in the Nielsen ratings. To save the show, ABC executive Jackie Smith hired Gloria Monty as the show's executive producer and showrunner, and Douglas Marland as head writer. Monty wanted to attract a youth-based audience as a way of garnering higher ratings. To do this, she and Marland brought troubled teenager Laurie Vining, Genie Francis, to the forefront of the series. The character went from appearing a couple times a week to having 50 pages of script a day. Gloria put sex and romance into Laura's life, Francis said, and it bowled me over. Here I was doing things in front of 20 million people that I had never done in my life. Her early stories, including killing her older lover, David Hamilton, for cheating on her with her mother, and a popular romance with up-and-coming student Scotty Baldwin, played by Ken Schreider. In response, GH ratings rose as younger viewers began watching for Laura. Teenagers connected with her because she was their age and experienced some of the same problems they did, yet also lived the life of a 28-year-old. I think in real life, Genie Francis, when she started, the character was like 14 or 15, and by the time the major plots were hitting, she was only 18 or 19. Now, when Geary joined the cast in 1978, it was meant to be a 13-week stint as Luke Spencer. His sister Bobby brought him to town to help him break up Laura's relationship with Scotty, as Bobby was in love with Scotty. By the end of Geary's contract, Luke was supposed to be killed off. Like Laura, Luke appealed to teenage viewers because of his edgy volatility, not the nicest-looking guy on the show, but very personable and very over-the-top. Since viewers expressed interest in Luke and Laura, the Lukers decided to have Luke die in Laura's arms, after which he should reunite with Scotty. Owing to the positive viewer response, the story moved towards a romance between Luke and Laura. Now, Pat Falcon Smith, this was the big key. He had replaced Marland as head writer for GH in 1979, since he wanted to go slower with Luke and Laura's story than Monty had. Smith wrote a controversial rape storyline between Luke and Laura. To prepare for it, Geary and Francis both met with a social worker before taping the rape scenes. Originally intended to be a brutal attack, Monty re-choreographed the scenes blocking in order for the encounter to come off as a forced seduction. She also took strong language and violence out of the scenes. GH music director at the time, Jill Farron Phelps, chose to use the popular song Rise, written by Randy Badass Alpert and Andy Armour, performed by trumpeter Herb Alpert during a rape scene, and ensuing scenes that recalled the rape. So this is where the heavy controversy comes in. Consequently, we use it constantly for a while. Then we turn the story around so that he was no longer the rapist, and that was no longer the appropriate piece of music, said Phelps. Every time Laura thought of the terrible rape by Luke, it was played to revoke that memory. The song had already ranked on the Billboard Hot 100, but exposure rise gained from appearing on GH helped bring it to number one. After the story aired in October 79, it was looked back on as a rape, and Laura was shown getting rape counseling. However, the writers decided to have the characters look back at the incident as a seduction instead of a rape because the pairing resonated with the audience. I disagree. That was a rape. Not say a rape with intent to injure, but he was so desperate to be knocked off by the mafia and not be able to touch her. Like his love for Laura at that point was an obsession. It wasn't from a level of respect. From that point on, we played Luke's regret and his total devastation. And the character, the way Anthony Geary played him, never really got over it. Now, after the rape storyline, the focus on GH began to center on Luke and Laura's romance. Before, the show revolved around hospital stories, including alcoholism, obesity, mental disorders, and cancer. Luke and Laura's adventure-based plots took the show away from the hospital. In 1980, the couple spent the summer on the run as an unprecedented type of storyline at the time. Monty imbued that plot with elements of Frank Capra's 1934 film It Happened One Night and the 1941 Humphrey Bogart film The Maltese Falcon. She later used Dr. No and Tarzan as the inspiration for the plot to stop Biko's Cassadine from taking over the world. As the show became laden with comic book fantasies, ratings remained high, but the viewer demographics became younger. It started getting very popular in Canada as well at the time. It was nowhere before Tony Geary showed up. Now, at one point, most CTVs across Canada were not showing General Hospital, but the big breakthrough, of course, is when ATV in the Maritimes, which was a CTV affiliate at the time, started showing the show, and that they said upwards of 200 to 300 Maritimers out of only a few million were watching the regular show. Now, in a 2008 interview with Soap Opera Digest, Ken Schreiner, who played Scotty, said Monty planned to continue with Scotty, Laura, and Luke triangle for a longer period, but his 1980 departure forced the story change. He returned to the show a year later, of course, catching the bouquet at the wedding. Former head writer Tom Racina intended to hold off the couple's marriage and allowed them to be separated by Scotty for 6 more months. However, Elizabeth Taylor called GH Studio after reading about the weddings being postponed in a soap opera magazine. She made a deal to appear in the series if Luke and Laura married. Taylor appeared in 5 episodes as Elena Cassadine, the widow of Mikos, whom Luke and Laura killed. Well, Luke killed. Luke and Laura's wedding, which aired on November 16-17, was the highest ratings in the history of daytime TV. Shortly after the wedding aired, Frances left the show, taking a portion of the audience with her. To hold on to the younger viewers, the show began focusing more of an action-adventure and less on complex characterizations and psychological drama. Frances returned briefly in 1983 to facilitate Geary's exit. Both actors returned in 1984 to reprise their roles for 6 weeks, and ABC had brought them back that time, hoping to raise General Hospital's sputtering ratings. The return story involving a location shoot in Cuernavaca, Mexico, and an adventure involving Holly Sutton, Luke's former paramour, and Robert Scorpio, Luke's best friend. The story aired from late October through early December 1984, after which the actors departed again and did not return until the 1990s. Now, the Luke, Laura, and Scotty main plot lasted about 2 years. The Ice Princess saga on and off going for 3 years. Now, the Return to Port Charles, of course, 93-98. The Merrill Little Wolves, 98 and 2002. Laura's return in 2006. And the second Ice Princess saga showed up in 2013, which led to the departure. Now, the idea about Luke and Laura, there's not enough podcasts will touch all the plots. Now, the YouTube has the commercially edited versions of the saga, like the transgender hitman, their connection with Hutch, being supported in that small town. And the wedding itself is tremendous because Elizabeth Taylor doesn't do a scene with Luke until later on, but she basically watches the wedding from far away and puts the curse. And that curse has been 50 years hitting the family. So how this played out, and pretty well, for 3 years between 78 and 81, Luke, Laura, and Scotty, or Luke, Laura, on the run or whatever, took up upwards of 20 to 30 minutes per episode for about 40 episodes a season. It's a very deep plot. Now, how it worked out, There was mafia involvement. There was world domination. There was brimming sexuality, redemption, not only for Luke, but for Bobby, because Bobby was the enemy of Laura, and she became a supporter of Luke. Scotty's parents were a big fan of the Laura and Scotty marriage, but they became fans of Luke and Laura because they knew that Scotty was too aggressive in the Laura relationship. There was aspect of the disco, themes of the time. Many friendships were made. New characters came on. Bobby was spread out as an actor. We had a rival of Rick Springfield, John Stamos later on. Because Luke and Laura left the show, they had to get replacements. Jack Wagner as well. And the Finola Hughes came on. So everything had a ripple. Everything connects with the Luke and Laura saga. Wendy left, you had to have, not say stunt casting, but Duke and Anna and all that. You had to be in Felicia and Frisco. Super couples upon super couples, and basically the hospital got less and less. Sure, the Cassadines were still involved, but it wasn't the main focus. So if you have time, if you can get a highlight package of the Luke and Laura saga, it's amazing how it puts it together. It showed sometimes like a low-end film noir B-movie with enough twists and all that. And just like Dark Shadows, it looked to be on all one take. It's the weirdest thing. Because you watch the episodes, you're saying to yourself, you shot him like that and it was over. There was no second or third take because it seemed literally going almost live. And 1978, we were just coming out of the live soap opera planning and shows of the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. Like Edge of Night was live until late in its broadcast life, as we say. But General Hospital, out in Coronation Street, is very close. It is the best soap opera of all time, best known American soap opera of all time. But you look at Coronation Street, the diversity of characters, and Coronation Street and General Hospital have all both been on the air for so long. But what's kind of weird, the Luke and Laura wedding was around the same time of Charles and Diana, and for a lot of people, Luke and Laura is above Charles and Diana for the obvious reasons. You get to love the character, but there was a payoff here that is still lasting off. I know for a fact that 95% of the General Hospital people, fans, the devoted ones who watch the show every week, there's a connection with Luke and Laura. Either they watch it as children with their mothers or grandmothers, or like we call in Canada, the shows. But if you're a person who was turned on to soaps by General Hospital, you're in probably your 60s now, or even your 70s. That's why you appreciate streaming, because a lot of shows have been stealing from General Hospital through the years. Because General Hospital had three things. They had beautiful people in peril, they had beautiful results, and they had beautiful weddings and breakups and children. There was always something going on, and he never talked down to their audience. General Hospital was a very cerebral show. Just Jesus Christ, just the Ice Princess plot alone. John Colicos once said, he said, I was asked me to do 3 years of drama like Stratford in 6 weeks. Elizabeth Taylor, why would Elizabeth Taylor be so interested in General Hospital? Because it's basically for the viewers, good writing, good plot, and not say mindless entertainment, because you know it never ends. There's no end to it. It's not really like comic books, because comic books sometimes would end. General Hospital, my God, it's still on, still doing good ratings. Jackson Montgomery's going to be on the show very soon. They're bringing back all these characters through the years. Schreiner leaving his show was front page news 2 weeks ago on most entertainment, internet sheets. Anyway, General Hospital from 1978 to 1984, must-see television. And early 90s with Lucky coming on the show, Mr. Jackson, as we say, our multiple Emmy Award winner. My God, what a treat. But I saw Edge of Night at its peak, Another World at its peak, and General Hospital at its peak. I'm so fortunate to pass these members on to you. If you like what you're doing, give us a like, comment, subscribe, or share, and your thoughts on your favorite General Hospital moment of the Luke and Laura era. Bye.